I woke up to a miracle today. Triggers stay as I find my way. No judgment to lead astray. In this peaceful state I'll stay.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're diving back into A Course in Miracles today.
Picking up right where we left off.
Yeah. Lesson 21. I am determined to see things differently. Last time, we were talking about how the ego just loves to judge, keeps us feeling all separate from each other.
Absolutely. And this lesson is really interesting because it kind of takes that idea and says, okay, so you've spotted the ego's game. Now how do you get out of it?
Exactly. It's like, okay, enough talk, time for action.
Right. Put it into practice.
But before we break down the lesson, why don't we hear it in its entirety?
Okay, from A Course in Miracles, Lesson 21. I am determined to see things differently. The idea for today is obviously a continuation and extension of the preceding one. This time, however, specific mind-searching periods are necessary, in addition to applying the idea to particular situations as they arise. 5 practice periods are urged, allowing a full minute for each. In the practice periods, begin by repeating the idea to yourself. Then close your eyes and search your mind carefully for situations past, present, or anticipated which arouse anger in you. The anger may take the form of any reaction ranging from mild irritation to rage. The degree of the emotion you experience does not matter. You will become increasingly aware that a slight twinge of annoyance is nothing but a veil drawn over intense fury. Try, therefore, not to let the little thoughts of anger escape you in the practice periods. Remember that you do not really recognize what arouses anger in you, and nothing that you believe in this connection means anything. You will probably be tempted to dwell more on some situations than on others on the fallacious grounds that they are more obvious. This is not so. It is merely an example of the belief that some forms of attack are more justified than others. As you search your mind for all the forms in which attack thoughts present themselves, hold each one in mind and tell yourself, I am determined to see name of person differently. I am determined to specify the situation differently. Try to be as specific as possible. You may, for example, focus your anger on a particular attribute of a particular person, believing that the anger is limited to this aspect. If your perception of the person is suffering from this form of distortion, say, I am determined to specify the attribute and name of person differently.
Okay, so much to unpack there. Right off the bat, I'm struck by this whole specific mind-searching thing.
Yeah.
It feels like it's saying that it's not enough to just, change how we react on the outside. We have to really investigate our thought patterns, on a deeper level.
Right. It's not just about changing our behavior in the moment.
Yeah.
It's about getting to the root of that anger. It's almost like being a detective.
Totally. Okay, so the lesson mentions these 5 practice periods, 1 minute each.
Yeah.
Is that like a hard and fast rule? Or more of a guideline, you think?
I think the real key here is the consistency, not so much the exact amount of time.
Okay.
It's more about consciously making the effort to carve out some time to just sit with those feelings of anger and examine them,
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's interesting, right, how it says we should be looking for anger in the past, the present, and the future, even in situations we're just anticipating. Why is that so important?
It's about recognizing the patterns in our thinking, I think. So often, we're already judging a situation or even a person before anything has even happened.
Oh, that's so true.
We're setting ourselves up for that anger before it even has a chance to arise.
Yeah, it's like we're preemptively judging, and then we're surprised when we feel angry.
Exactly. And that's where this practice comes in, helping us to see those patterns so we can start to shift them.
So it's not just about reacting differently in the moment.
Right.
It's about getting ahead of the anger, before it even becomes a problem.
I like that. Getting ahead of the anger. That's a good way to put it. We're taking a proactive approach instead of just reacting all the time.
Okay, so something else that caught my attention in this lesson is the mention of these little thoughts of anger. Is it about, trying to differentiate between just minor irritation versus, full-blown rage?
I think it's more about recognizing that sometimes those little annoyances can be covering up something much deeper. You might brush off a moment of frustration as no big deal, but if we don't actually acknowledge and address those feelings, they can build up over time.
Right, right.
And eventually they can turn into something much bigger and more explosive.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like we need to be radically honest with ourselves about those feelings, even if they seem small at first.
Absolutely. We need to be willing to look at those little thoughts of anger and see what might be hiding underneath them.
It's so easy to just push those feelings aside, like, oh, it's fine. I'm not really that angry.
Yeah, but
Of course.
in Miracles is really encouraging us to be more mindful of those subtle feelings, to not just sweep them under the rug.
Okay, that makes sense. So the lesson also talks about this idea of justified anger.
Oh, yeah.
Like certain types of anger that we consider to be more acceptable or valid than others.
Right, right.
I know I do this all the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
getting annoyed by a slow driver feels so much more valid than, say, getting upset with a friend for being late, even if they both kind of trigger that same feeling of irritation.
It's interesting, isn't it, how we categorize certain types of anger as more okay than others.
Yeah. But it sounds like what A Course in Miracles is suggesting is that all anger ultimately comes from the same place.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really important point. It's not about judging our anger or trying to label some forms of it as good and others as bad.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that all anger, regardless of how justified it might seem, is still coming from that same egoic place of separation and judgment.
I see. So even if we think we have a good reason to be angry, Course in Miracles is saying that we're still buying into the ego's game.
Exactly. And that's why this lesson is so powerful, because it's giving us a way to step out of that game altogether.
Okay, so how do we actually work with these angry thoughts during those practice periods?
Yeah.
The lesson mentions some specific phrases we can use, right?
Yeah. It talks about repeating the phrase, I am determined to see name of person differently,
Mm-hmm.
or I am determined to specify the situation differently.
So, like, if I'm angry at a friend for being late, would I say, I am determined to see friend's name differently?
You could, but to make it even more specific, you could try focusing on the actual attribute that's causing the anger,
Okay.
So in that example, you might say, I am determined to see lateness in friend's name differently.
Oh, I see. So instead of just focusing on the person, I'm shifting my attention to the actual quality that's triggering me.
Right. It's about seeing that specific aspect of the situation in a new light.
That's interesting. So it's not about denying that my friend was late or pretending it doesn't bother me.
No, not at all.
It's about choosing to look at that lateness with a different perspective, a more understanding perspective.
Exactly. It's about creating space for compassion and recognizing that there might be more to the story than we initially realize.
And that shift in perspective can really change how I feel about the situation, right?
Absolutely, because it's taking us out of that judgmental mindset and helping us to see things with more understanding and hopefully more forgiveness. It's like instead of just seeing that one behavior, like the lateness, as the whole story, we're acknowledging that there might be other factors at play.
Right, like maybe my friend got stuck in traffic or had an emergency come up.
Exactly. And even if there wasn't a specific reason, choosing to see their lateness differently allows us to be more understanding and less reactive.
I love that. It takes the focus off of blame and judgment.
Yeah, and it opens us up to the possibility of connection instead of separation.
Speaking of connection, this reminds me of something we've talked about before, this idea that judging others is ultimately a reflection of our own inner state.
Oh, absolutely.
Of course.
In Miracles is all about recognizing that we're all interconnected.
So when we judge someone else, it's like we're judging a part of ourselves.
Precisely. It's a mirror reflecting back our own beliefs and judgments about ourselves.
That's such a powerful concept. It really makes you think twice before you criticize someone, right?
Yeah.
Because you're essentially criticizing a part of yourself.
Exactly. And that's why this practice of seeing things differently is so transformative. It's
Right.
not just about changing how we see other people, it's about changing how we see ourselves.
Okay, so we've talked about this in a theoretical sense, but how do we actually put this into practice in our daily lives? What are some situations where this might be helpful?
Well, think about areas in your life where you tend to feel anger or frustration come up the most. Maybe it's in your relationships or at work or even just in those daily little interactions you have with strangers.
For me, I definitely notice it in my relationships.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in judging my loved ones for their flaws, and it just creates a lot of unnecessary conflict.
I think we all experience that to some degree. So in those moments, try using that phrase. I am determined to see specific attribute in person's name differently. Let's say you're feeling annoyed by your partner's messiness.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You could say to yourself, I am determined to see messiness in my partner differently.
Okay, so instead of just focusing on how their messiness bothers me, I'm actively choosing to see it through a different lens.
Yes. And that shift in perspective can create so much more space for compassion and understanding.
Because instead of seeing it as a personal attack, like they're doing it on purpose to annoy me, I'm opening myself up to other possibilities.
Right. Maybe their messiness is just a reflection of a different way of thinking or a different set of priorities.
And that's okay. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just different.
Exactly. We all have our own unique ways of being, and this practice allows us to embrace those differences instead of judging them.
So that's one example in relationships.
Yeah.
What about other situations? Like, let's say I'm stuck in traffic and I'm starting to feel that familiar road rage bubbling up,
Oh, I think we'd all been there.
right? It's like instant frustration.
Totally. In those moments, you can still apply the same principle. Instead of seeing the traffic jam as a personal inconvenience or getting angry at the other drivers, you could try saying to yourself, I am determined to see this traffic jam differently.
Okay, so how would I actually see it differently? Like, what other perspective is there?
Well, you could choose to see it as an opportunity, for example.
An opportunity? What do you mean?
It could be an opportunity to practice patience,
Oh, okay.
or to listen to a podcast,
Yeah.
or just to connect with yourself for a few minutes,
Right.
to just be present.
Exactly. It's about finding that little bit of space within the challenge and choosing to see it in a new light.
Instead of just getting swept up in that initial reaction of frustration and anger.
Right. It's about taking a step back and saying, okay, what else is possible here?
It sounds like a lot of this is about finding those little moments throughout the day where we can practice this,
Yeah.
to step out of our habitual reactions and see things with fresh eyes. Absolutely. It's about making that conscious choice to shift our perception even in the most mundane situations.
And those small shifts can really add up over time, right?
They can. They can create a ripple effect in our lives that we might not even realize at first.
It's like we're slowly rewiring our brains to see the world through a different lens.
A lens that's more focused on love and understanding rather than fear and judgment.
I love that. It's such a powerful idea. And it's something that we can all practice no matter what our circumstances are.
Exactly. It's available to everyone in every moment.
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here. This is so helpful. It's inspiring me to be more mindful of my thoughts and to really make that effort to see things differently.
I'm glad to hear that. It's really about recognizing that we have a choice in how we perceive the world, and that choice ultimately determines our experience of it.
So powerful. Okay, so let's recap what we've learned today from Lesson 21.
The main takeaway is that we have the power to choose how we see the world. We don't have to be victims of our circumstances or our emotions.
We can choose to see things differently, especially when we're feeling angry or frustrated. And by doing so, we weaken the ego's hold on our minds.
We step out of that cycle of judgment and separation and create more space for love, compassion, and connection.
This has been such a rich discussion. It's amazing how these teachings from A Course in Miracles can be applied to everyday life.
I agree. It's always inspiring to explore these ideas and see how they can make a real difference in our lives.
Okay, before we wrap up this part of our exploration, is there anything else you want to add about Lesson 21? Any final thoughts or insights you want to leave our listener with?
I would love to leave our listener with a question to ponder, something to really help them integrate these principles into their own life.
I love a good question. What is it?
Think about a situation in your life right now that's causing you anger or frustration. Maybe it's a conflict with a loved one, a challenging situation at work, or even just a general feeling of dissatisfaction with something.
Yeah.
Now imagine applying the principles from this lesson to that specific situation. Instead of getting caught up in the anger and judgment, ask yourself, what would it look like to see this differently?
I think this has been such an eye-opening conversation. It's really given me a lot to think about and work with.
I'm so glad to hear that. It's always inspiring to explore these ideas with you.
We hope this deep dive into Lesson 21 has been helpful for you too. It's a reminder that we always have a choice in how we see things.
And that choice, that power to choose, is what ultimately determines our experience of life.
So keep practicing, stay curious, and remember, you have the power to see things differently. Until next time.
I woke up to